So I have an important message. The information in this video may make you think that I'm a boomer, and I don't care. This comic has me reliving my good old days. It's time for another episode of the Comic Bin Comic Book Podcast.
It's time for the Comic Bin Comic Book Podcast. The podcast you look forward to for all of your news and reviews of the best comic books hitting stands. Whether it's DC,
Batman, Wonder Woman,
Marvel,
Spider-Man,
Image,
Spawn, Saga,
Boom,
Once and Future, Power Rangers,
or whatever book or publisher you follow,
we cover them all here.
this is the place for you.
That's right, it's for everyone.
This is the Comic Bin Comic Book Podcast.
Let's get it.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode of the Comic Bin Comic Book Podcast. I am your host, Theo. Got an episode that I've been waiting a long time to do. I'm gonna be sitting down with writer-artist Marcus Williams to talk about his miniseries, Eye Lie Popeye. It's a 5-issue miniseries going on over at Massive Publishing, and I've been waiting to sit down to talk to him about this for quite a while. I've known Marcus almost a decade now. I started following him almost a decade back when I first met him and Greg Burnham back at Dragon Con in Atlanta, Georgia, and been a big follower of his ever since. Whenever he's at a con, I take a moment and just talk to him about the work that he's doing and the things that's going on with him. He's a very busy guy, which is why it took me a while to get him to sit down for this interview. But in this, we talk about the series. Right now it's only have 3 issues of the 5 issues out. Issue number 4 was supposed to come out, but as you all know, there's been those issues with Diamond filing bankruptcy, and it's really put a lot of these independent publishers back with regards to releasing their titles because they have to find new distributors that can tackle the duties of getting those comics out to comic book shops. Now, if you're following the news, Massive did sign an agreement with Luna Distribution, so Luna, aka DCBS, will be doing their comic book distribution moving forward. When I spoke with the folks at Massive, the only thing they're working on now is finding someone to handle their digital comics. They were in partnership with Omnibus before Omnibus went under as well. So hopefully, for those who are digital comic readers, I do that myself for a lot of books that I read. Hopefully they'll be able to get a digital platform that can tackle their comics as well. But hopefully we'll be seeing issue number 4 of Eye Lie Popeye on comic book shelves pretty soon, now that they've signed that agreement with Luna Distribution. But again, I'm going to talk to Marcus about Eye Lie Popeye, those first 3 issues, what we might be able to expect in issue 4, and then some of the other projects that he's working on or has been working on for quite some time. It was a real fun conversation. And then once we get back, I will do a quick rundown. I'm not even going to, do a full review of my top 5 books from this past week. I'm just going to go ahead and give a quick rundown before talking about what I'll be working on for next week. I got another great episode lined up for next week, so I'm going to talk a moment about that. But here it is, my sit down with writer-artist Marcus Williams, talking about Eye Lie Popeye, and I'll see you all on the other side. Hey folks, it's Theo. I am sitting here with my boy Marcus Williams. Marcus, welcome to the podcast. How you doing, my friend?
I appreciate it, man. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me out.
Man, look, so I'm not going to be too specific because then I'll be telling my age, but I've been following this cat since the first time I met him at Dragon Con many years ago. He and Greg had dropped the first issue of Tuskegee Heirs, and I've been following them since. So
Nice.
when I got news last year that he was dropping a Popeye series, I said I gotta get on that real quick. It was bad enough. I was running around trying to find the copy of from the Spider-Verse that he did the story on. So, Marcus, my friend, you've been busy. I was looking for you in
Yes,
New Orleans this January, and you weren't there. You've been a
right.
busy fella. How's it doing?
It's busy is an understatement, and that's it's a really cool thing to stay busy, but then the result of that is you don't get to move around as much, because you're obligated due to contractuals. Deadlines are an evil and necessary thing. So yeah, I get tied to my desk often, especially last year because we was like, we got to get them out, we got to get them out, we got to get them out. And I was traveling, doing multiple shows, over 20 shows a year. So I'm like, a lot of people just think I'm an artist, and I'm like, no, 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 I'm a publisher. I run a publishing company with Greg and Years, and but we also, Greg is working with DC and he's getting jobs there and dropping stuff. So we have to keep adding links to our belts in the comic industry as we came out as self-publishers.
Right.
So independent publishers, I should say. So, when the industry says, hey man, you want to do something that would actually, and it resonates with us, like, I'm a huge fan of Popeye. So I was just like, yes. They initially he said, hey, would you like to draw a comic? uh Alex reached out from King Features and he's like, hey, how would you like to draw a 10 pager for Popeye, but in your style? I'm like, yeah, yeah, that sounds fantastic. Let's do it. I said, who do you got writing it? He was like, well, I read your fan fiction that you did back in 2020. I was thinking you could write it. I'm like, yes, I can. Let's do that. So I'm writing, I'm drawing, I'm coloring, I'm lettering, like the whole thing. So, and I get some color help as well throughout the book. So I'm usually doing half or a little bit more, but it's a lot, man. It's a lot. So busy is an understatement.
Hey, well,
It is.
congratulations.
Thank you.
When you start out as a independent publisher or creator, it's not easy getting into the big time, especially nowadays, as a lot of publishers don't have these sessions where you can drop off a portfolio to
Hmm.
look at, so and now it's easier to actually get your stuff out there with crowdfunding and Kickstarters and Indiegogo. So it
Yeah.
allows you to put your work out there, but it also allows you to get noticed as well. And I'm happy you and Greg both have gotten noticed over the last few years. I read his stuff that he's done with the Milestone Initiative, and
Hmm.
so it's it's always a joy to see hard work pay off.
Yeah,
When you've been doing it for so long. So
definitely.
you mentioned your style of art. Let's talk a little bit about it.
Right.
So you have a big influence from manga and anime. Where did that come from?
So initially, like, I didn't watch a lot of anime. Back, you go back 20 plus years, we didn't have anime wasn't streamable. We didn't even have the internet to that degree. YouTube wasn't a thing, Google wasn't a thing. So I saw we had like little rental shops in my local area when I was in high school, and they were like, VHS tapes, you know what I'm saying? So you if you found that a spot where you can rent anime, it may have had subtitles. It may not have had subtitles. And I think my first one was Ninja Scroll, back in the day. And so, and of course, we didn't know we were being introduced, Thundercats intro, things like that. That's Japanese animation. It
Yeah,
was fire back then, but we didn't
yeah.
understand what what created that. We didn't understand Japanese animation studios put that together. It was just dope. So from way back then to the point of me renting and or getting access to animation, Toonami, back on Cartoon Network, I think 99, 2000, somewhere around
Hmm.
there. When Toonami came out, I saw Gundam Wing, I saw, Cowboy Bebop, I saw Dragon Ball Z, I saw all of these things, like a lot of Western. audiences back then was like, yo, this is amazing. What is this? And got addicted. So Toonami took off and introduced a whole Western audience
Yeah.
to, actual serialized, but all of these anime were old
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
Japanese people. So
Yeah, I remember telling my age. I was speaking with someone else, and I remember saying, when I was growing up, we were watching Voltron,
yeah.
and I was watching Battle of the Planets and Gotcha
Hmm.
Man.
Hmm.
We didn't know anything about that being Japanese anime.
Japanese, right,
It was just cartoons that was coming on after school and on Saturday
right,
mornings. And
right,
then as we get older and we learn more about this genre that's just has been out there for, we were like, oh, it
right,
comes from that.
right.
One of the things I started doing is I've been working on a feature where I started watching the original Go Cats, Go
Hmm.
Lions
Hmm.
anime, which
Hmm.
is Voltron,
Yeah,
and comparing episode to episode to find the
right.
differences. And when you see just how much they made changes to westernize the
Hmm.
cartoon compared to what it was originally scheduled or originally created to do, it's
Right.
just amazing. But
Yeah.
it, I have I have learned to love anime and manga without
Mhm.
knowing that I already loved it.
Correct. Correct.
So you mentioned how you were approached about Popeye.
Hmm.
We're now, we're now issue three is out. We're now waiting on issue four. It was held up due to some issues with Diamond, and we all know what's going on there.
Hmm. Hmm.
You were approached by King Features. Now, and I know Popeye was recently entered into the public domain. How is it working with those guys? Have they been pretty open as far as you making a lot of changes with some of the characters? For example, Sea Hag looks far different than what we've seen on cartoons and on Saturday mornings.
Hmm.
So how is it working with those guys and throwing your ideas out there and getting feedback from them?
Yeah, no, I give Alex his credit all the time. It is probably the best experience working with Alex and his team. Alex Garcia is his name. But it's honestly, man, this is the dream job because not only were they super receptive to my approach stylistically, because what got me the job is I did back in 2020, I did a fan fiction because I do a lot of those just because I'm a huge fan of a lot of pop culture and comics and whatever. I did Goku and I did Popeye, coming together, and I called it, Dragon Ball Z World Breakers, Dragon Ball Z Popeye World Breakers. And it's the first image was just Popeye and Goku kind of laughing, but after the battle, like they had already, the clothes was already ripped off, and they were just kind of laughing it up. But I did about, I don't know, 6 or 7 images just crossing over those characters. So you had, Vegeta and you had, Olive. Olive was training under Vegeta. You had Bluto and you had Frieza, things like this. So I wrote maybe 3 or 4 paragraphs per each image, just kind of, because it would be an easy mashup in my mind, writing wise. The story just kind of just put Popeye and crew in Dragon Ball Z universe. What happened? So I wrote that out just like I do all my fan fiction. So that eventually they saw it 2 years later online somewhere. And so Alex reached out and he's like, yeah, man, we like your style. How would you feel like doing an anime like or anime-esque Popeye short story, 10 pages? And it was actually meant just for online marketing, just to kind of stir up, social media, things like that. Did it, wrote it, but we talked for like 4 months. In that 4+ months of just planning, super, super, super receptive. You have to reel me in. You got to give me like, excuse me, like a sandbox, because
Hmm.
otherwise I can go everywhere. And I'm like, Popeye was true to life. Popeye is over 95, almost 100 years old. I said that was technically our Dragon Ball Z when we were kids. We had no reference otherwise, because again, we didn't have anime streaming or on TV to that degree. Dragon Ball, the original anime, Japanese animation series, was out in the 80s, but we had it. So
Right.
Japanese people had that. We had Popeye for years, and I loved it. It was an action fighting cartoon. So me and Alex, we would just brainstorm and brainstorm, and he's just as much as an anime fan and geek and fan of Popeye. So bringing our ideas, and letting me say, okay, dude, I got something dope. I got something cool. Let me see. How would you guys feel if I? And everything was on the table, but we reeled it in and started laughing about the concept of what if we made a story about how Popeye, quote, lost his eye, but no one telling their stories was the truth. So
Right.
it was I lie Popeye. So it was everyone else is telling a fib of how
Hmm.
they think Popeye lost his eye. So it was an I lie Popeye.
And
And
it
we just
really
thought, yeah, we started laughing about it and coming up with all these crazy stories. So
and it really grew from there when you see, especially in issue one, how, Bluto and Olive Oil and Wimpy all gave their own rendition of what happened.
right.
But it seemed to grow from that. I mean, because now we see that Popeye is more than who we always thought he was. He is now almost like this mystical figure
Mhm.
in this universe. How did you come up with that idea?
Man, listen, I watch too much anime. So the real thing is the same concept that the if you go back to what I said about putting Popeye in Dragon Ball Z, um, Popeye actually his power set, if you will, the
Mm,
things that he can do is actually genuinely broken, and we've never made sense of it other than he ate some spinach.
mm,
But if you put that under the, scope of what Japanese writers do to make sense of One Punch Man, we still don't really know why One Punch Man does what he does, and that's the mystery. But it drives the story, it drives the character growth, it drives the entertainment of him, the character himself, trying to understand why do I keep killing everything in one punch, and that's what I did with Popeye, which is we've never known why spinach works the way it works with Popeye. We've never understood, um, you know, on a deeper level, can it be something? And here's the other problem. The thing that excites me the most is I started asking, Alex and his team, I'm like, so how does magic work? Because the sea hag is a witch, right?
right.
And they're like, however the writer ever wants it to work. And I'm like, oh, that's beautiful. Perfect. So I get to design a magic system. Perfect. I was like, how does this work? What if, and all of the fan questions that I had never had answers to. They're like, we don't know. It was never defined. How does the Jeep, work? What the Jeep is supposed to be a fourth dimensional being. And they had a very detailed, this is back in the comic strips, black and
Mm.
white comic strips, the original creator and writer really went in on the fourth dimensional and all of this, and it's all based on science. And I'm like, why is this in a comic strip, bruh? What is this? So the Jeep is actually a very detailed character. And when you get down to okay, so if Jeep is from the fourth dimensional being, what does he really look like? Because the concept of the Jeep is he embodied this little African, creature, and just got stuck in that body. But he can pop in and out of our realm and go, that's why he can disappear and reappear. That's why he can do weird stuff. But it's all based on real science. So I'm just like, what? And so science is involved, all of these cool things. And I'm like, perfect, because I'm a fan of all of that. So if you try to put that into Popeye and what makes Popeye what he is, look, as somebody, I watched a review and someone was like, dude, there's this huge info dump of Popeye's world. And it's like a lot. I was like, it's only 3 pages. It's only 3 pages. Where I just did just the kind of info dump to say, you don't know the reality you live in, but I'm gonna give you a little hint.
A little
And
taste of it.
yeah, and Popeye is an anomaly.
Yeah.
Here's all this info, but we still don't understand Popeye. So I Lie as a series is literally just meant to kind of define the world. And then from there, you have all different directions that you can go from here. So that was my goal.
So now we also see in the series you were able to create some new characters as
Hmm.
well.
Hmm.
How much thought did you how much thought did you put into the design of each of them? Because man, they are stunning
I
across the
appreciate it.
board.
I appreciate it. It's something we talked about really early on in our discussions about, okay, so who's the main villain, who's the main, and I'm like, well, you know, um, and it just kept growing
Let
and
me
more
just
so.
say, I don't want to cut you. Let me just say,
Yeah,
it's good that it's not Sea Hag and it's not Bluto
yeah,
who are the main villains. It really allows the world to expand even more so.
right. And I think that that point right there is what excited me the most because as a writer, people I don't even consider myself, it's weird because I've been writing Tuskegee years, I've written other things, but as a writer, even when I do fan fictions or I tweak a design of a character, the intrigue of it has to actually be interesting. So Popeye has never been allowed to grow. His story arc has never been more than fight of the day, take spinach, and you win.
Mhm.
He just wants to protect Olive. That's fine. And Goku is very much the same. Like Goku has a very flat character arc. He is by and large the same character. He does not change. Superman does not necessarily change, which is what fans actually come to love. And some other people, critics are like, well, he's boring. But Popeye has never been allowed to grow. And I'm like, in all these years, 95 plus years, he's never really said, what if, spinach doesn't work? What
Yeah.
happens then? What do you do with that? And so I'm putting that in the story, but it's only to say not that he doesn't eat spinach anymore. That's a big thing. I was like, I'm not taking spinach away from his diet. He likes spinach. But what if it doesn't work? And now he has to come to another conclusion.
And we see that especially in issue three, where
Right.
finish has no effect on Big Boy.
Yeah.
He takes him out real quick.
Right.
Now, if we can talk a little bit about issue three, and if you haven't read issue three yet,
Yeah.
you may want to press pause, go read it, come back. But why my boy Wimpy? What happened? What's up with that swerve, man? Because I was not expecting that.
I
Especially considering the story, his I Lie story at the beginning of the arc, and then
right.
all of a sudden now we went me on the bad side. What's up with that?
Listen, I have plans for every single main character that we know. It's not just Popeye. I want so ideally, this is my hope. Um, I'm doing a five book, short story really. To establish the world, establish the characters that we know, and then have a springboard, basically, right? To say once you get to the end of five, and no spoilers, but every character should feel like they have a path of, somewhere new to actually grow. So everybody is going to have their story arc. And at the end of five, if we pick up the story, if I'm not drawing it, but hopefully I get to, put in my little story beats. The goal is to say Olive has a story arc to move forward. Bluto, Sweet Pea, Wimpy, all the characters we know and love, the Sea Hag, you know what I mean? Even the new characters that I created or introduced, you know, I don't kill them off, for that purpose.
Mhm.
It's everybody should have something of a growing or a new direction, so to speak. Olive in issue three, no spoilers, I guess, is going to get some new tools to play with.
Yeah.
But it's just starting. She doesn't know anything about these tools. She doesn't understand them. It's brand new,
Yeah,
right?
and
And that's the
we
point.
saw that when the Sea Hag, bestowed some gifts
Yeah.
on both Olive and on Bluto.
Hmm.
And you know, the one thing that really astonishes me with the story thus far is not only Popeye's backstory and learning that backstory,
Yeah.
but Jeep's involvement in that. I mean,
Yeah.
you mentioned him being Jeep being that fourth dimensional creature, but I mean, I've never in the cartoons the most Jeep was saying was Jeep,
Yes.
and now we are learning a whole lot about this character that makes me feel,
Yeah.
other than Popeye himself, might be the most important creature in this, or the most important being in this universe, just by what's been revealed thus far. And I love how you've kind of been doing that, as you were mentioning, trying to build up each character on their own so
Right.
that at some point they can branch off.
Right.
And and we again we saw that with the gifts and the powers that were granted to
Mhm.
Bluto and Olive Oil.
Right.
And it's good seeing Poop Deck Pap back and those folks as well. So we
Right.
know that this is Popeye's universe.
Hmm.
So we know that issue 4 is coming out soon.
Yeah.
What can fans expect? No spoilers.
From issue 4.
Yes.
Oh man, it's so the we leave issue 3 on a bit of a cliffhanger. And it's a continuation of the events happening. So, Popeye gets kind of laid out on at the end of issue 3, but issue 4 is going to be a little bit of that conversation continued.
Mhm.
Things have to resolve itself. Things are going to move, in a way where I like I'm not gonna, I can say Alex, when I turned in the pages of issue 4, you know, he was like, this is a very emotional issue, man, and I love it. It's just it's almost to say I knew and I remember us talking about it, over a year ago. I'm like, I want to see, stakes. I want to see the characters question themselves. I want to see different sides of all of the characters. And so it's weird that they all culminated in one issue. I didn't plan that, but
Mhm.
I knew that was going to be a part of the story, and it had to happen. The most frustrating thing is that I only have 5 issues to do this. So it's not to say that I don't have we're not planning to ever do more. It's just I've got 5 books and they have 24 pages each or something like
Right.
that. So I'm trying to, get the story, I'm trying to get the action, I'm trying to get the character development all in one space, knowing that there has to be a crescendo, there has to be a high point and an end, so to speak, for this story arc. So the next issue, man, it's gonna be those different sides of the character. You're gonna see different things that the cartoon may have never really touched on, which is, you know, self-doubt, or questioning whether or not they're enough
A-
based
a-
on what they've always known about themselves versus what do they do with themselves now if they have these new parameters. And like, so I'll give you a hint. We know Olive Oil,
mhm.
right? That's who her father. She gets her name from her father. We don't know, and neither does King Features, apparently. They're digging for it. They're digging for me. We don't know Olive's mother's, maiden side. We don't know her mother's, family. And I'm like, well, what's her mom's maiden name? And he's like, that's a good question now. So again, as a writer and as a creative for this project, as a fan first, my goal is not to upset fans by changing the characters. That's not necessarily my goal. My goal as a fan is to grow the characters. They are the same characters we've always known, and I hear their voices whenever I'm writing the story. But it's to say, well, I want to grow the character that we've known for over 90 years plus. To say, if you give them new stimuli and new parameters, where does that go? Where does that take the characters we always love? And I mean, you can do it with any character that's been out for a long time. If Mickey Mouse became, I don't know, a vampire hunter, right? It would be Mickey Mouse as a vampire hunter.
Right.
but the story tickles my imagination already because I'm like, yeah, but oh, it's Mickey Mouse as a vampire hunter. How deep do you want to go in this world? Because is it dark? Is it Disney? Or is it, something, the character is Mickey, but all the different parameters that would come with that is where the entertainment lies for me. And it's not my job to say, well, Mickey now has this bloodthirsty, murderous. Oh, it's still Mickey.
Right.
He's just a vampire hunter now. So let's try to play that story out. And it should feel like Mickey the whole time. Just, hey man, I never thought about Mickey as well. Now no, like no one watching this now is not going to be able to not see this or think about this. Would that story be good? But the thing that I hate is when you get directors like what happened with X-Men, the first X-Men movie. You get Bryan Singer type directors who's like, yeah, don't read the comics. I want to do something different and I want to change what the X-Men like. That's not your job, dude. This is a very, very beloved, series and team, and fantastic stories have been written. And this guy comes out of nowhere saying, I want to, and I'm not going to use any of that stuff. I'm going to tell a story based on what I think I know about the X-Men as a default. And it sucked, in my opinion. I hate that movie.
Yeah.
I hate all of his movies. But
Yeah.
that's the kind of thing that I'm like, I don't want to do that for Popeye. This is a very, very, really big honor for me as an artist and creative. So they warned me. That was actually one of the meetings. They're like, Marcus, we want, and their face was very serious in the Zoom meeting. They're like, so we want to warn you that fans are very passionate. And I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. They're like, no, 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 you don't understand. They are very protective of Popeye. And I'm like, okay, okay. Well, I mean, I'm not worried because I'm not trying to upset them. I'm just gonna add some new toy. And they're like, yeah, that's what we're talking about. We got to make sure we warn you that it's that, they're not very they're like 50-plus-year-old men who are very offended by change.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not worried about that. I'm good.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay,
I remember, I can't remember who it was. It may have
yeah,
been Joshua Williamson, and we were talking about what he was doing with G.I. Joe. The
oh
fact
yeah,
that it's not a big two title, but it's still an IP,
yeah,
and you have a little bit more freedom. And I remember he was saying, yeah, I have a little bit more freedom, but I want to make sure I take care of the characters because, again, they're still not mine.
right,
You know, they have a history and a fan base and
yeah,
and a following that you have to remember and you have to protect.
yeah,
So you make a very good point, and I think that is I think that is a, I think that is a habit and a trait that comic book creators just inertly have, that they have to protect those characters,
yeah,
even the ones that you create yourself.
right,
You create that character for a particular reason and you want to
yeah.
protect it.
Yeah, well
So
then it's different. It's only unique when you create a character because you're that voice of that character, that their persona, their personality types, only you as a creator know it intimately.
mhm,
Everybody knows Popeye. I was actually more frustrated that I couldn't. There's a thing that Popeye in the animated, the black and white cartoons, that the voiceover actor did when Popeye was, he would monologue to himself out loud. He would just be talking, but it would be like this little mumble. So Papa, hey, you gotta come out to the end of it. And he was talking to himself. No one else was around, and Popeye would just mumble out loud to himself. And he would just, it's monologuing. And I was so frustrated. I told Alex, I was like, I'm pissed. I cannot get that in the comic the way I would want to do it like they did in the animation because there's no audio. And I can reduce the text size, but it wouldn't really work the same way.
right.
And I was like, I hate that I can't bring all elements of the thing that tickles me. I'm not gonna write Popeye's laugh in the comic. It doesn't read well. For people that don't know how Popeye laughs, like how it sounds, it just doesn't read well. They're gonna read it and be like, "Ak, ak, 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 ak." And I was like, I can't bring this. So I'll write laugh. And for the people that don't know, they understand what laugh means. They may not understand what you know, and I'm just like, I don't want to write it out. But that's
Right.
the kind of things where I'm like, hopefully, once we get to the next point, if it gets animated, if it for a new audience, they'll be like, oh, okay,
That's what that was about.
that's
Yeah.
what that was. Yeah,
Yeah. So
cool.
the story is I Lie Popeye issues 1, 2, and 3 are already on shelves. Man, I got a blank cover I got ready for you. So next time I
Nice.
see you, I'm gonna need a hookup.
I'm ready.
I would be remiss if I
Yeah,
didn't ask you
yeah.
to talk about Swaptober
Oh yeah,
and everything that's with Swaptober. If you're not following
yeah,
Marcus on IG, you really need to because Swaptober is a thing.
yeah.
If you can, explain to the audience what Swaptober is and how you came up with that idea.
Simple, simple. So the elevator pitch for Swaptober is really easy. So if there is a male character in this universe, then in an alternate universe, there's a female variant of that. Same way they did with Loki or anything like that. So it's a variant kind of character design contest that I gave myself. It's a 30-day, character design challenge that happens every October. So 30 days. I don't always do 30 because I'm busy. We talked about that earlier. Uh, but it's anybody can join. You just hashtag Swaptober Art Challenge. And I started it back in 2015. And it's been going every year since then. I got way too many images in my portfolio about it now, but nobody is safe. So I don't tell people what to draw. In my opinion, that kind of sullies the creativity. Any and everything that you would like to put in Swaptober. For instance, video games, comics, movies, television, you name it, toys, it doesn't matter. So animation. Um, if there is a, female or male counterpart initially, that then there's a variant of the opposite sex in another universe. That's all. So, but I didn't want to do Inktober. That was actually the reason I started Swaptober. I was like, I don't want to ink for 30 days. And there's nothing wrong with Inktober. I should do it because I need to get, more practice. But I prefer doing, gender swaps.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but it's not just a basic, here's the character, here's the female version, same costume. I gradually I like to challenge myself to say, okay, I know what Rogue looks like in the X-Men. I know what her costume looks like, but what does it look like if a guy was wearing that? I gotta design a little bit more to say,
Right.
okay, is he wearing a? And I got fans that are like, why didn't you? I did Cammy from Street Fighter, and why didn't you put the leotard the same way? I was like, I mean, I could have, but nah, bro, it just doesn't really. And they were like in the comments, like, nah, I reject this if he doesn't get to wear the leotard the same way. I was like, just not what I wanted to draw. That's not what I wanted to draw, but I'll put pants on the male cami and go from there. But that's the fun it's been for all of these years. And it's still going.
Oh yeah, and hopefully you got something special planned for the 10th anniversary.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
All right. So as always, where's my list? Before we close out, as we always do, it is
Sure.
time for rapid fire.
Let's do it.
Two choices, no right or wrong answers. Let me know when you're ready. I probably know the answer to this first one already.
I'm ready.
Okay, Goku or Naruto?
In terms of who do I like better?
In terms of
Oh,
whatever.
Goku.
Goku. All right.
Yeah.
Uh, Chainsaw Man or One Punch?
One Punch.
All right.
Yeah.
G.I. Joe or Cobra?
G.I. Joe.
Okay.
Mm.
Street Fighter or Tekken?
Ooh. Based on where it is now, I would go with Tekken. But I grew up Street Fighter, so
Yeah.
I don't like some of the mechanics of Street Fighter now. So I haven't played the newest Tekken, but I'm a Paul fan through and through, so I'll
Okay.
go with Tekken.
Okay. So let's go. Katana or Chun-Li?
Chun-Li,
Okay.
all day, all day. That has saved lives, man. Everybody know
All right now.
that.
Team Rocket or Ash?
Ah man, Ash.
All right.
Yeah.
Pikachu or Charizard?
We don't see if I got a hold of Pikachu as a story writer. If I got to this, we don't understand what the hell Pikachu is. We don't know
Oh,
why
man,
he has.
look,
Yeah,
look,
we don't know anything about why a level, whatever he is able to do what he does. So I would choose Pikachu just because it's unexplained. He's probably a god from some other dimension. We don't know.
all right, last one.
Yeah.
Justice League Unlimited or Batman the Animated Series?
God dang it. That's the hardest one for last. Dang it.
And that's the one that gets everybody.
I'm gonna go with Batman animated because it's classic. Unwatered down, they still hold up. The episodes still hold up. Justice League Unlimited got a little loosey towards the end. You know, they was kind of grabbing at straws. It was good, but not Batman good. Like, there's the episodes I still remember about Batman. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
and despite everything DC has done since animation wise, Master of the Phantasm is still the best Batman ever. And
Yeah.
you know, it and I've been collecting Batman comics since I was 9, and
Yeah.
you're not gonna change my mind on that one.
There's no reason to. It's what it is. Proof is in the pudding. My thing is why not just get smart and hire those writers and say, hey man, we're sorry. We're sorry that we didn't come to you earlier. Can you make a movie for us? Just
Yeah,
make a movie for us real
yeah,
quick and we'll just try it out, see what fans think. I mean, what's hard about that?
yeah. Marcus William, my friend, what can fans follow you if they want to know what's going on in your world? I mentioned your
Yeah,
IG earlier. Where else can they
yeah.
find you?
So Marcus the Visual, all one word. Marcus the Visual is the moniker I use online for my pages. Um, I guess the only caveat for that is on Facebook because I've had Facebook for so long. Is I'm Marcus Williams on Facebook, but I also have a Marcus the Visual page. So I got to do dual work on there. But Marcus the Visual on most things. I'm terrible at TikTok. I didn't know if TikTok was gonna be deleted, so I was like, I don't know if I should put stuff on here. But yeah, that you can find me as Marcus the Visual. I have a website under that name as well, marcusthevisual.com. You can buy some stuff there. I'll sell you stuff. But that's where IG, I think I've been posting images consistently since I've started there. So my timeline is very long there. It's not a lot of stuff that'll get in your way. So if you want to check out my work, you can go down that rabbit hole of sketches and crazy stuff. So check me out.
And no matter what, you got to check out Swaptober. I mean, there have been some designs that you've thrown out that I just like.
Yeah.
Okay, damn, I never thought.
Right.
Okay, this needs to be brought to life for real now.
And that's the fun. That's actually the fun of it. People are like, hey, so what are you gonna do? You know what you're? I was like, no, I don't think about it beforehand. Some things I have stored. I'm like, oh, that'll be dope. But I actually like the challenge of wake up and actually come up with a swap on the spot because that's really what a good, I think sharpens a character designer is. I don't know what I'm doing today, but I'm gonna figure it out. And I have no
Mhm.
shortage of things that I'm a fan of. So that's why I don't think I'll ever stop. I did, a different world for Swaptober. I swapped Whitley and Dwayne Wayne. So there's no shortage of content for Swaptober, literally. I did Coming to America. I did, so everybody can get swapped. So, but yeah,
Well, Marcus, my friend, I'm gonna be respectful of your time because I'm gonna need for you and Greg to get back together and give me some more Low Rock files and get to work on that.
oh man,
You
he's
know,
he look he did that. He's doing that without, like I said, I'm busy. So he did get another artist to continue that story. He has an actual
yeah, but
you
I
know,
got your variant covered though, brother. So
mm-hmm.
I gotta respect. Marcus, thank you so much for joining me on the Comic Book Podcast.
I appreciate it.
Again, book is I Lie Popeye. This is Marcus Williams. Thank you again, my brother. I will see you. Hopefully, I'll see you at Dragon Con this year if you're there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right,
All
brother.
righty.
I appreciate you. Take care, man.
All righty.
So again, I want to thank Marcus for sitting with me to talk about I Lie Popeye and some of his other projects, especially Swaptober. I've been following that for years. I will
have the links to Marcus's social media. If you want to give him a follow, I strongly suggest you do. He does an incredible job with his artwork. Like I said, I've been on him and following him for almost a decade, and I just love the style of drawing that he does with the work that he does and the colors that he do for himself. It's all just great work. And again, big follower, big fan, and I am hoping to hear back from Massive on when I Lie Popeye #4 will be re-solicited and re-released to comic fans and comic book shops. Like I said, they've just signed a deal with Luna Distribution to handle the comic book distribution, so I'm hoping to hear some news soon as to when issue 4 of I Lie Popeye will be released. But when it's announced, I'll be sure to make it news for you all to follow along and go and get your pre-order in so that you can get your copy. Again, issues 1 through 3 of I Lie Popeye is out on comic book shelves. You can also order it online and give Marcus your support. Again, being an independent comic book creator is a tough job, and it's good to see that he has the backing of Massive Publishing and getting his story out. So again, thanks to Marcus. I truly appreciate him taking the time out of his busy schedule to sit with me. So with that being said, again, I'm not gonna take I'm not gonna take much more time in doing this. Just getting to my top 5, and I'm gonna go through them real quick so that we can go on to talk about what's gonna happen next week. In the number 5 spot, Absolute Batman #5 from Scott Snyder and Nick Dragotta. Poor Bruce got his ass handed to him by Black Mask. Sorry to see that happen, but I'm sure he's going to be bouncing back in issue number 6. In the number 4 spot, Sam Wilson, Captain America #2 from writers Greg Pak and Evan Narcisse with art from Eder Messias. Yeah, when Shadow Soldier wake up from whatever type of dreamland that Harmon has them in, I think he's gonna be kicking some major booty when it's all said and done. That was a really good issue that I read. Didn't think I was gonna be able to follow Sam Wilson, Captain America, but yeah, I am enjoying it thus far after the first 2 issues. In the number 3 spot, Moon Knight Fist of Khonshu #5 from writer Jed McKay with art from Deb Pramanik. Mark got his ass handed to him, and well, at least he's about to, and we can see it. We can see a reason now. He's fighting a god from Asgard, and he wasn't expecting it, and I wasn't expecting that reveal as well. So we will see how he recovers from the butt whipping that he's already received, and how Khonshu may or may not be able to help him get through it. In the number 2 spot, Black Lightning #4 from writer Brandon Thomas with art from Pico Osio. I've been enjoying this from issue number 1. A little disappointed that Jefferson wasn't able to get many swings in on Superman. It was really just, a eye blank and you missed it type of situation, and he spent most of it talking to his ex about how things went. But I really liked how the issue ended with him and Jennifer getting ready to just kick ass with the Sons of Liberty coming at them with the power dampeners, stunting their abilities. But we also see that by the end that Anissa looks like she's about to get herself back into the ball game. So I can't wait for issue 5 to come out to see what she does to help her family out. But that I've been enjoying Black Lightning from the start, and truly enjoyed this issue as well, especially seeing how it ends and what's to come with issue number 5. In the number 1 spot, my favorite book of the past week,
Green Lantern Corps #1, written by Jeremy Adams and Morgan Hampton, with art from Fernando Passarin. The Corps is back, and we see that they are doing their thing and trying to find Sorrow and prevent him from building this new battery that could possibly destroy the emotional spectrum, if not the universe itself. But it was a really fun issue as well. We see that Sinestro is back in a Green Lantern uniform, and it's an interesting idea in how they are searching these outbursts of the emotional spectrum, and as a way of getting the individuals who are pushing out this energy to get them to help them control it. They're basically making them Green Lanterns. And so we see that happen with this issue as well, as Sinestro is able to calm a member of someone who is exuding a lot of fear and that emotion, and he was able to calm that individual down. And at that point, she's given a Green Lantern ring, and so it's an interesting idea, the fact that they are going to use willpower to help these individuals who really have a different type of emotional power. And as we see in this issue, this individual has the power of fear, much like Sinestro, who is really a master of it. But really good issue, really fun issue. Not only at the beginning, but also at the end. In the beginning, it was John being chased and courted by Blackfire, Starfire's sister, who is looking for the perfect concubine, and she seems to think that John Stewart would be just the one. But also at the end, where as the mission ends, the first issue, or as the first mission ends, and John has now been requested for another, and we see that it's coming from Danagar, and the person requesting his assistance is none other than his ex, Shahira, aka Hawkwoman of Danagar. And that's gonna be fun. That was a relationship that sprung out from the Justice League animated series. We've seen hints of it in the comic book pages, so now we see it coming back full circle again in the comics. And I laughed when she popped up on that last page saying "Long time no see." So it would be interesting to see how these two play things out, and whether or not there will be any type of rekindling of relationships. We know we don't have to worry about Vixen, because she's kind of doing her own thing. First with the Birds of Prey, and now she's hanging out with Cyborg. So, no, that wasn't Cyborg. No, she's hanging out with Bolt. So we'll see. But that is my #1 book for the week. Green Lantern Corps #1 from Jeremy Adams, Morgan Hampton, and Fernando Passarin over at DC Comics. Now, I did have two quick honorable mentions. The first being CamGirl #1 over at AWA from writer Sarah Cho, with art from C.P. Smith. It is good to see Sarah back doing some comic book writing after she finished up her miniseries at AWA with Red Light. And so now she's back with CamGirl. It's only a one-shot, but it was a really good story, considering it's in the style and it's on a subject that Sarah enjoys putting on pages for readers to see and to understand, and really good read. I'm hoping to see Sarah again, and hopefully have her back on the show to talk about it and see what else she might be working on in the future. And then the other honorable mention is going to be Aquaman #2 from writer Jeremy Adams, with art from John Timms. The art has just been superb thus far in these first two issues. And again, the writing as we get reintroduced to this new author who has been kind of transformed since he's obtained some of Mara's powers with hydrokinesis. And we will see what happens. I am hoping that we learn more about this Omega Gate as well as the dark tide that he is now been prophesied to be. So we shall see, but that is my other honorable mention, Aquaman #2 from Jeremy Adams and John Timms over at DC Comics. So that's going to do it for this episode of the Comic Bin Comic Book Podcast. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Next time I'm going to be sitting with Joseph Ilyich, the writer of the Milestone Universe, The Shadow Cabinet #4. The final issue of this miniseries comes out this coming Wednesday, and so he and I are going to sit down and talk about it, and hopefully talk about what might be next for the Milestone Universe. I've been a follower and a fan of Milestone since it first appeared back in 1993. So, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to enjoy this conversation talking about these series as well. And again, like what may be coming out from Milestone in the future. He's worked on both sides of the creative table, both as a writer and as an editor. So it'll be good for me to sit and pick his brain about what he's done at Milestone and hopefully what's to come. So thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you all next time. And until then, keep reading those comics. That is going to do it for this episode of the Comic Bin Comic Book Podcast. I'd like to thank you all for your continued support of the program. The Comic Bin Podcast, as well as the Comic Book Spot, are a part of the Comic Book Source family of sites and media. You can follow the podcast on Twitter X at comic_bin, or my personal account at BatmanFan_4life. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Threads. We're all over social media. You can also follow our sister site over at thebatmanuniverse.net for all of your news and reviews in the world of Batman. Tune in next time as we give you more in the world of comic books. Again, we truly appreciate your support. But until we meet again next time, keep reading those comics.